Q1 wasn't the prettiest quarter, but there's ways that we can fix it, and I want to identify and show you 10 of the common things that cause Q1 performance to be not so exciting and a little bit dismal. Check it out. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. On this episode, I was looking at Q1 performances, looking at what are some of the common challenges I got from some of my clients on why they didn't do so well, some of the data specifically that back up some of this information, and I wanted to disseminate this information to you. Now, I know we're really in the throng of Q2 right now, and there's some of these things that probably are not going to be as impactful now because you needed them last quarter. Well, we didn't have the data. Now we do. This can help you for the rest of the quarter as well as help you in Q3. And I'm going to do something unique because I want to take some time with this. I'm not going to do a 10-part series, but what I'm going to do is a 5-part series. And here's what I'm going to do. Today, I'm going to outline the 10 challenges that we saw, and I'm going to give some data, some information, some insights behind it. And then the next episode, subsequent episode, I'm picking the top 5 challenges and I'm going to tackle them based on a scenario. I'm going to use, and some of you may not be in this boat, but I'm going to use a cybersecurity scenario. And the reason why I'm doing this, it's a common one. A lot of you are selling software as well, but the idea of going after of going after an IT director is sometimes a little bit challenging. And I want to break down some of the issues that came up when we see this with our clients who are in cyber, or when we see this with some of our clients in the technology space or in software space. The principle apply. I'm just using this scenario, but it applies to your business no matter what you're selling if you're going after B2B client. Now, if you love this, I want you to stay tuned to the series. If this is your first time listening to our podcast, I encourage you to go ahead and subscribe, and I'll notify you every time we drop a new piece of content. So please be on the lookout. I love doing podcasts here. And the reason why I like doing it, because it's things that help me and has helped my clients. And I want to be able to give you some benefit that can help you as well. But let's tackle these things first off. We'll go straight up on them. There are 10 things that I found, and I want to make sure that you understand each of them. Some of these came from clients. Some of these came from the research. So I know that they're valid and things that are, impacting sellers and also impacting our team as well. 1, this is not in order of the most important, but I'm just going down a list. The first one we're going to tackle is tariff-free buying decisions. So, this is just straight facts. Let me give you some data here. This came from Salesforce. This one came from KPMG. 82% of U.S. companies reported declining sales after tariff took effect. And that's from KPMG. They shared that in February 2026. 61% of companies report a decline in domestic sales as well. 55% of executives plan to raise prices by up to 15% within 6 months. And then global GDP growth projected to just 2.4%, nearly 1 full point below pre-tariff forecasts. These data are real. And what I found with many of this is that because of those policies, many organizations, it just brought in uncertainty. And because of this uncertainty, they didn't want to make any commitment to new business or to spending until they could figure things out. And unfortunately, that's just the name of the game. But that one caused some indecisions where organizations said, well, we're working on this deal. We've been planning this for months. But you know what? Right now, because of the situation that happened, we need to hang tight and see how things roll out. So let's circle back in Q2 or Q3. And I know many of you have that deal, same problem. If you've experienced any of that, go ahead and drop me a comment on LinkedIn. Let me know. DK, send me a message. Said, DK, that was me. The second thing that we saw was prospects were cutting costs. Now, here's some data to back this up. 78% of business buyers say their companies are more careful about spending than before. This was according to Salesforce. 69%, almost 70% of salespeople say selling got harder due to budget scrutiny and inflation. Then this is a third point. Average B2B win rate dropped to 20 to 21%, meaning 4 out of 5 deals are lost. And this was according to HubSpot. And then the final one that I thought was like a nail in a coffin, 70% of sales leaders are now focused on dependable revenue rather than high risk growth. people are cautious. This ties back to number one, but this is not particular. Number one is specifically around the tariff. This is more so around just we are trying to cut off unnecessary costs, things that we may be, so let's say, for instance, maybe they have like 200 licenses with you. Do they really need that many licenses? And you're going to find situations where they're cutting back on that. What this looked like was that budget requests that usually took 2 weeks are now taking 2 months. You have to get sign off from CFO or the executive, CEO level. And one of the big components is that this doesn't work well for feature benefit reps. If you're feature benefit selling, in a situation like this, it doesn't matter how many features or new features you have to come to a business problem and you have to be able to speak the language of the CFO. If you can do that, then you're going to win. But if you can't, you're going to be stuck time and time again. Number 3, the global economy slowdown. This is, again, tying right back to the tariff, but here's why. I want to read you something, and I'm going to share the data, and then I'm going to tie this back to a situation. Global GDP growth fell to a projected 2.4% in 2026, down 6 points, 6.6 percentage points from pre-tariff forecast. Here's another one. B2B spending contracted 5.6% in real terms in mid-2025 after front-loading in Q1. Now, I'll explain that and give me a second. World merchandise trade growth dropped to 0.9 in 2025, down from 2.7% pre-tariff. And 80% of sales teams struggled to meet quotas in 2025, with 53% citing external economic conditions. What does this mean? Here is what it is. Again, we talked about some of these things before, but look at it from a global perspective right now. And some of you may say, I'm in a business, Donald, that's definitely domestic. It's not a global impact. You're getting resources, or your clients may be getting resources from a global organization, or everyone is connected globally now. And this causes challenges. So here's one of the things I saw. The macro slowdown wasn't just a U.S. story. Global GDP dropped to 2.4% in 2026. Nearly a full percentage point, which we talked about. And here's one of the issues that came back. Companies that had front-loaded purchases in 2025 to beat anticipated tariff went quiet in 2026. Now, here's what this data means, is that many organizations, because of the simple fact of a slowdown, it wasn't just, let me clarify, it wasn't just a U.S. slowdown issue. Even though it impacted U.S., I shared with you numbers that it was a global GDP decline. What happened was companies in 2025, because of the simple fact that they knew tariffs were coming, they front-loaded in Q1 and Q2, maybe just did a whole bunch of purchases of resources, raw materials that they might need. So when it came to Q4, they didn't necessarily spend as much because of the simple fact they slowed down. They already had supplies. Now, coming into this year in 2026, they probably will need to get access to that information, to some of that resources again, but they're probably going to be even more stringent with some of the points we pointed out earlier. So they front loaded, but on the back end, they found themselves in a big challenge or a more difficult situation. Now, I'm going to get into some more granular topics, ideas here as we get into number 4. This ties directly to you as a sales rep. And here's one of what we found in number 4. Sales rep were only selling 28% of their time. I've talked about this before, and you've seen the data many times over and over. It's about a sales rep spend about 30%, maybe 40% of their time selling. It's usually around that 30%. 60 to 70% of their time spent doing task that's not necessary for a sales rep, and that's where AI can come in for the win. Here's some of the data that I found. So again, you can find some of this from Salesforce, but reps spend only 28% of their week on core selling task. The average sales rep managed 10 different sales tools, and this create a massive this context switching costs. I'm going to jump from this solution to this solution. I'm going to do LinkedIn, and I'm going to go into our sequence software, and I'm going to go into our CRM, which both are sending different sequences, and it's a confusion. I work with the sales team, and they were doing that, and it was just ridiculous, and we had to simplify for the sales rep, otherwise they were done. Sales team using AI tools are 3.7 more likely to hit quota. That was that was a stark contrast to what we've seen before. And AI-enhanced workflows free up approximately 20% of sellers' capacity and improve productivity by 30%. So the simple fact is salespeople were just spending a whole bunch of time doing things that didn't necessarily need to do. And one of the recommendations that I've given is to take advantage of AI for things like this. This is doing the research beforehand, finding leads. And this comes for sales leaders. You can help your sales team here. Can you give them tools, or can you do some of the things to get them the leads, get them the right people to go after, do the research with some AI tools, update their CRMs with AI agents so that they can spend more time reaching out, talking to, having meetings with their clients. That's where we're coming in for the win. And this was a big issue, especially as we saw that we are required to do so much more as sales rep. And it's important that we build relationships and to personalize. This costs something. And especially when you're managing so many different software, it's going to cost something somewhere. And that usually shows up in the lack of performance in the pipeline because of the simple fact that we're doing so much busy work on the front end. You got to find a better way to do that to help your sales team. Number 5 is a very, very interesting one. And check this out. The buyers were gone by the time the sales rep showed up. Here are some stats, and I'm going to give you a scenario. The stats are B2B buyers complete 67% of the journey independent before engaging with a sales rep. We've known this before, but it's becoming more prevalent. And why? Because of ChatGPT, because of Claude. We have AI tools that can do so much research for us that we know exactly what we want prior to meeting, before we meet with you. So we're past the first, maybe third, or in this case, it's saying that almost half the journey is already done by the buyer, in the sense they identified their pain, they self-diagnosed, and so forth. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean the self-diagnosing was right, but it's something that they're doing and they feel they have an answer to, and they're looking for a specific solution. Feature benefit sellers will struggle with that. Consultants who can challenge the norm are going to thrive in these environments because they come with insights that the buyers may not necessarily know. Here's another one. 61% of B2B buyers now prefer a rep-free buying experience. That was according to Gartner. LinkedIn generates 80% of B2B social media leads, and then sales professionals who master social selling create 45% more opportunities. One more time. Sales reps who master social selling creates 45% more opportunities and are 51% more likely to hit quota. Straight up facts. Now, here's the scenario. This is called dark funnel. Let me explain what dark funnel is. This is where your buyers are doing some of the research prior. So let's just understand this. And you do this and I do this. They're having case studies. So they're finding a problem and discovering they have a challenge internally. By the time they fill out a demo request on your website, they've already researched that. They've already spoken to Chat and to Claude, and they've gotten detail, or Grok, or whatever they use. They already gotten details, and I got to say Gemini, apparently. They already gotten details of what some of these scenarios could be like. They've built an internal case study because AI helped them, and they're using this at the executive board, and they're using this in their meetings to talk about the real need, why they need to invest in a solution like what you have. They're looking now at the last step of it. They're looking for a consultant to help them because they already made a short list of companies they're going after. And if you feel that you're the only one your prospects are going for, you are in la la land. You've got to understand that the buyers are doing these research and they're getting recommendations and they're asking for lists and the top ones and the best reviews. If this is the case, you are toast. And the reason is because the buyers trust the AI tools that they're using, and you are a sales rep and they don't trust you. That's why, again, you have to be a consultant. By the time you get to the appointment with them, you have to bring more to the table. And what I saw that happened in Q4, end of last year, is that one, we didn't have enough pipeline, but two, when the buyers came to this situation, the sellers were selling, 3 steps behind the buyer. They were doing things that the buyers were finding were annoying, such as, well, let's set up a couple discoveries and let's do all of this stuff and let's figure out what the issue is. Like, bro, I already know my leg ache, it hurts. Can you help me identify why it might hurt? And give me a solution for it. Or in a simpler example, my leg is broken. I can see that, but you want to go and do discovery and figure out what's wrong with me. Like, I need help right now, and I'm giving you what this could be. Now, in some of these situations, again, the buyer may think the leg is broken. Perhaps it could be fractured, but perhaps maybe it's a really big hurtful sprain or something, or hairline fraction. They don't necessarily need a big old surgery that they might be proposing. They probably just need a cast or a sling to help them out in that situation. But that's where the consultant sales rep comes in to be able to help with that situation. In Q4 last year, this was a huge problem. We're seeing it now, and it's not going to get any easier over time. This dark funnel concept is, we are playing behind the 8 ball as those sales reps, and we need to get ahead of it. So this, and what I mean by this dark funnel is, again, you can't see it, but your prospects are way further down the line. The way I found it to work with this is that marketing teams and sales teams just have to work together. Revenue team, you have to give your prospect what they want, meet them where they are. I'm a big proponent in this fact, and I've seen this over and over again, is that when I go for looking at a software, I am not requesting a demo. I'm going online and watching the demo that the organization do. So why can't you do that? Show me what you could do. Impress me with some use cases, the common use cases for your solution, why people buy that. Do that in your YouTube video demonstrating your solution, and then it allows for me to be able to see that your capabilities. Yes, there may be outlier reasons, another reason why I might want it, but if you can point out based on statistics the top reason people use your software. So again, let's say I sell a CRM, and most people get in a CRM, it's not because they know they need to get away from Excel, but because they're looking for something that can integrate and to be more efficient with AI. That's a common reason we're getting right now with our CRM software. Therefore, I'm going to talk about that in my demo video. Am I making sense on that? As opposed to that, we have so many different integrations, and we have cool capabilities, and we have cool lights and stuff. Nobody wants that garbage. Give me things that's going to help my sales rep to perform better, how AI and agents are going to help them to be able to log all of their CRM activities without the sales rep having to do that. That's what you give me that demo video, and you speak to me as that CMO and that CRO or the sales director that may be looking for something like this. And that helps where you can start to get into the dark funnel way before your other competitors are doing that. But again, as a sales rep, there may not be something in your wheelhouse, maybe something leadership will point out. I'm going to go through the rest of these very quickly because I want to just make sure you can understand them and you can get an idea. Number 6 is that multiple stakeholder deals were dying in committees. And what this looked like was that you built a relationship with your champion. I mean, you did really good with the champion. You guys are like friends, you know about their kids, and they play soccer and all this stuff. You know that he loves to go hiking. You built this great relationship. That particular champion took this deal to a committee, and committees are getting even more broader. I think there's up to like 7 individuals on the committee now because of all the things coming back with the scrutiny and spending. And this is nothing new, but it's just becoming more prevalent because of that simple fact that we find that it's harder and harder to make a decision around one person make a decision, so to make it on a committee. Well, you're not getting access to the CFO anymore as quickly. You're not getting access to the legal people as quickly. They're talking about the solution based on the research that your champion did with Grok or with Gemini or with Claude, and they're bringing this to the table coupled with the meetings that you've had with them, and they are making a decision independent of you. And oftentimes they're using AI to help them to do so, but you are not getting access to that room. You're not getting access to those individuals. What can you do to make a difference? And the thing that I found to make a difference, if you don't have a digital sales room, come on, man. If you're not equipping the champion with a champion playbook, if you're not giving them the tools to be successful, you're done. You got to think about it. It's not like a puppet, but you got to think about them like your puppet, man. They're going into that room and they need the knowledge and insights you have in your head. How can you provide that? That could be based on white papers, could be case studies, could be specific examples and scenarios based on their environment that you worked out with the champion. You put this in a digital sales room. You make sure that they can use that easily, and the content needs to be able to be easily consumed so that the CFO, who you're not going to see, and the legal team you're not going to interact with, can hear you independent of your champion, because they're hearing you through the champion and also seeing your content and things that you've provided specifically for them. I'm telling you, this is the way it is. The other piece with this is that you got to multi-thread in several different directions from the jump. Straight up, if you know the CFO is playing a critical part in that, you try to make that connection with the CFO from the beginning. You also do that with some of the other key individual champions or factors, influencers within the organization. That helps a lot. And again, we'll go over some of these later on as we go into the series. But I just want to give you some layout and lay of the land and some different ideas. Number 7, we're at number 7, right? I want to make sure. Yeah, number 7, prospecting was taking too long. Ooh, listen to the stats on this one. Sales reps spend 40% of their time just finding people to sell to. That's according to HubSpot. One more time. Sales reps spending 40% of their time just to find people to reach out to. I'm just like, I'm thinking about this as from a business standpoint, and I'm like, dang it, why would I want my sales rep to spend so much of their time doing that? Is there a way that we can do this better? And we're living in the future. We have AI, so you can use AI as a way to be able to help get these people more leads. So there are many different tools that you can take advantage of. But what it is, one specific one, and many software building is in there. But I want to look and see what are some of the different factors that cause people to want to be that will maybe a fit for us. I'm using tools like Navigator, and I'm using tools like Sixth Sense and so forth. I'm trying to find the pattern. I'm trying to find what people are doing, the behaviors, the triggers that could cause them to be interested in what we have. And because of those behaviors, and because of AI's helping me with that, I can start making decisions on the type of leads and then help my sales rep to build them out those leads. I think this is something that more and more organizations need to do because, again, you don't necessarily need a human to do it, but you can have an agent to do this. But imagine if your sales rep had a new focus list that they can focus on every 20 days. And this was curated based on challenges that were, or based on ICP and the challenges that they're potentially facing. Like it's mad, it's magic essentially, and it's madness not to do it. Here's some of the ones I want you to understand. It takes an average of 8 call attempts to reach a single decision maker. 8 call attempts. Craziness. 81% of trade show attendees have buying authority, yet 80% of these leads never receive a follow-up. That's a drop the mic. Your organization has no excuses. We've got to do better at that. And when you talk about pipeline challenges, that's one of those things. I mean, when I say follow-up, somebody may call them once, but because they weren't back yet from the trade show or they weren't ready to buy this week, all of a sudden it's a bad lead. Somebody's got to nurture these bad boys, and that's where marketing and sales got to come in together. 42% of reps cite prospecting as their number one difficulty, and it's true. It's hard, but listen, and I get it. Yeah, you have it's par for the course, right? And you're going to have to do prospecting. It's going to be a part of the ethos of what we do as sales reps. And yes, you may prospect for 40% of the time, and you might get a deal that takes care of you for the rest of the, maybe a third of your pipeline, which is remarkable, right? And we know we're going to have some of that where it's built into the cost. But we don't have to make our sales rep grudgingly do their job. If we can give them more opportunities to be in front of prospect, then give them some time to flex and to exercise their prospecting muscle. But if we can give them opportunities to be ahead, that's magical right there. Number 8, Quota was built in a different world. I'm telling you, let me tell you, here's why. 87% of sales teams struggle to meet quota in 2025, with 53% citing external economic conditions. Let me come and explain this. This is going to tie back to the stuff we talked at the beginning. 50% of companies overassign quota by 20 to 30%. They're desperate for money. This strained the sales rep responsibility and productivity, and then lead them to indecision or a lack of effective work. Average quota attainment across all B2B sector was just 43%. I have a client in a similar boat. His quota is like obscene amount because the company need the numbers, they need the money to be able to show the investors. But the sales team they're hitting, I think, like around 50%. That is craziness. It's craziness. So something's got to give. Sales leaders report higher burnout and turnover as sales rep chase unrealistic targets. So why your sales reps are quitting and why you're spending all this money recruiting and getting new people. You're giving them stuff that's not, they can't fit, they can't work with. And most of the quota was built. Think about 2025 quota. When was the 25 quota built? That was built in Q3 and Q4 of 2024. So we gave them this big quota that they need to work on in 2025. And then what happened in 2025? Tariffs and so forth. So in December, we were way in the future compared to where it's at. So we got to look at a way to be able to do quotas a little differently and be able to help feed our sales teams. And that's one of the problems that I found that happened. Number 9, AI adoption became a gap performance. So let me give you an example with this, just data. Some of these came from my friends over at Salesforce. 89% of revenue organizations now use AI in some capacity. Sales team using AI tools are 3.7 more likely to hit quota. So for those who are not hitting quota, what are you doing? What can you do with AI that can help you? 68% of reps say AI insights directly help them close a deal faster. Last one, this come from Sporo. That was the last one from Sporo, and this last one from Salesforce. 83% of AI enhanced team grew revenue versus 66% of non-AI teams. It's just plain and simple. If I can work smarter rather than harder, I'm going to take that any day. And that's what your sales reps need at this point. They need tools that's going to help them to perform better. And we can go deeper into how they can utilize AI, but that's going to happen in another episode. But their activities falling behind competitors oftentimes because the competitors are using AI in an effective way and your sales team's not. It's like running a race with one leg when the other person has two. Like you got to find ways to be able to help your team. And if you're not having internal discussions as a leadership, you're definitely falling behind. It's going to be more difficult for you how we can adopt AI. And I'm not talking about just giving them, say, hey, we got Claude, we got all these great tools. You got to show me a way how I can be successful with those AI tools. That how is that going to help me to get more appointments, find more prospects, which is the hardest part, and then to help me with manage the deals that I'm working with. Can it help me to walk through scenarios and to help me to be able to identify holes that I don't necessarily see right now based on all of the reasons why the deals closed in the past? Can we feed that information into our AI and give us ways to do the discovery call and the follow-up meetings, so that I can eliminate those before they become, issues that's going to kill our deals later on. AI is here to help us, but we may be focusing so much on the wrong things that we're missing some of these capabilities. Last one, high turnover team, under-resourced, which ties back to the couple of the previous ones. If your sales team is getting burnt out because the quota is too high and they're not getting attainment, or you have to let go of sales reps and find new ones, this erodes your culture where people don't want to stick around or to be there. And because of that, it's just simple. The data is not in your favor. We're going to go somewhere else. We're going to find organizations that we can work with. Here's some data that's going to help you out. Annual B2B sales team turnover sits at 25%. 25%. 1 in 4 reps leave every year. And think about how costly that is. Here's some of the ones that you might see. 1 in 4 reps is actively planning to leave their company next year. Average new B2B rep takes 4.5 months to reach their full productivity. And then AI enhanced onboarding cuts ramp time from 7 months down to 2.5 months. So you got to utilize it in so many different ways in that. I'm going to go through some of these. The top 5 ones I'm going to highlight and I'm going to share some of these with you. Let me tell you what they are, and I'm going to break them down into a scenario. So in the next episode, you're going to find more details on that one. Some of these, the top one, which I find that most sales reps have issues with right now, was number 5. Buyers were gone before the sales reps show up. So I'm going to give you in a scenario, and I'm going to give you how you can fix this scenario example with it. The next one that I'm going to do an episode on is multiple stakeholders. Challenge number 6, the multiple stakeholder deals when you don't even know who those bad boys are. I'm going to give you ways how you can fix that and how you can work with it. So look for that on. So that's going to be this is episode number 1992. So 1993 is going to be challenge number 5 around sales reps. Buyers are gone before sales reps come about. The next one is 1994. This sounds like a year, but that's our episode number. So 1994, we're going to talk about the challenge number 2 with multiple stakeholders when you don't even know you're not even in a room or can't get into the room. And then number 3, we're going to talk about the tariff challenge. This was a big one. So we're going to talk, and that's going to be episode number 1995. We're going to break down what you can do, what sales reps can do to fix that or challenge some of these tariff issues. I need to say it right. Then 1995, make sure I'm getting all this right. 1996, it's going to be a 4th point, which is the AI adoption gap became a performance gap. And I'm going to show you ways that we can fix that, some specific things that teams can do. And then the final one that we're going to tackle is number 4, where, number 4, which is that the reps were only selling 28% of their time in 2025. And you're going to see ways that we can do that better, how we can be more efficient. I'll give you some specific tactics so you can see. That's going to be on episode 1997. And then there's a bonus one that I might do is on Quota was built in a different time. So this one definitely for sales leaders, but I might put that in one of the other ones. But here's what I would like for you to do. I'm going to take each of these. I'm going to use one scenario to help you. And it's going to be based on an IT, you're selling to a CTO and you're in the cybersecurity. I'm going to bring up what these scenarios look like. And you can compare them to your sales efforts. And then I'm going to give you specific ways, again, how we can tackle them. And I want you to give me some feedback on how you're liking this series. So go ahead, drop me a message on LinkedIn. Let me know that you enjoy this. As always, I want you to thrive. I want you to succeed. But most importantly, I want you to raise your level of thinking. I want you to go out and do big things. See you on the next one.